Here in Georgia, a convicted killer who spent almost 5 months on the run after escaping a prison in New Orleans is back behind bars tonight after being arrested in Georgia.
Do you want to challenge extradition, or do you want to return to Louisiana? You want to go back to Louisiana? Okay.
You ever heard of a manhunt so wild that it stretched across states, involved dozens of agencies, and still ended in the most unexpected place possible? Well, that's exactly what happened with Derrick Groves, a convicted killer who vanished from a Louisiana jail and somehow managed to stay hidden for 5 whole months. But how did a man locked up behind concrete walls and iron bars pull off one of the most talked about escapes of 2025? And where was he hiding all that time? Before we break that down, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you don't miss any of our deep dive stories right here on Crime Bitz, where real stories cut deeper than fiction. Now, let's rewind to the beginning. It was May 4th, 2025, when chaos erupted inside the Orleans Parish Justice Center in New Orleans. 10 inmates, yes, 10, somehow managed to slip through security, vanish into the night, and send the city into panic. Among them was 33-year-old Derrick Groves, a man serving a life sentence for multiple murders. Groves wasn't just any inmate, he had a reputation inside. Smart, quiet, and calculating. The kind of person who observes before he moves. When guards realized the group was gone, it was already too late. Surveillance footage later showed the men breaking through an unsecured section of the facility, a weak spot they'd likely studied for months. Within hours, news broke across New Orleans. Massive jailbreak. 10 inmates on the run. Panic spread fast. Helicopters hovered over neighborhoods, sirens echoed across the French Quarter, and residents were told to stay indoors. But as the days passed, one thing became clear. Derrick Groves wasn't just another runaway inmate. He was gone in a way that made no sense. The others were caught one by one, hiding in abandoned houses or begging for rides at gas stations. But Groves? Nothing. No trace. It was as if he disappeared off the face of the earth. That mystery lit up social media. People started calling him the ghost of Orleans Parish. But beneath the jokes and hashtags, there was a real fear brewing in the city. Who was helping him? How could a man with no money, no phone, and no ID make it this far without being seen? Family members of his victims spoke out during interviews, saying things like, "We can't sleep knowing he's out there." Police formed a special task force with the U.S. Marshals Service, offering rewards and promising justice. But every lead went cold. Some believed Groves had escaped Louisiana entirely. Others thought he might be hiding in plain sight, blending into the streets he once walked as a free man. Meanwhile, rumors swirled. Was he getting help from someone inside the jail? Was the escape an inside job? Officials never confirmed it, but the timing and precision sure made it feel that way. The public wanted answers. Weeks turned into months, May turned to June, then July. And still, no one could find Derrick Groves. But behind the scenes, investigators were quietly tracing tips, tracking burner phones, and chasing whispers. Whispers that would eventually lead them to a quiet home hundreds of miles away. By early October, law enforcement had exhausted almost every lead, until one small tip changed everything. A woman in Atlanta, Georgia, called the local police after noticing something strange about a man living in a house down her street. He barely came outside, always wore a hoodie, and when he did, he moved like someone who didn't want to be seen. She didn't think much of it at first, until she saw his face on the news. That tip was passed to the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, and within days, the quiet neighborhood on Atlanta's west side was swarming with unmarked cars. Officers surrounded the property in the early hours of the morning. For nearly 20 minutes, they used loudspeakers to call out his name. "Derrick Groves, come out with your hands up." But there was silence. When he didn't respond, officers deployed tear gas through the windows and sent in a K-9 unit. That's when they found him, hidden inside a cramped crawl space beneath the floorboards. After 5 months on the run, Groves was finally captured. Inside the house, they discovered more than just a fugitive. Officers found a firearm, multiple fake IDs, and nearly 15 pounds of marijuana, suggesting he wasn't just hiding. He was hustling. The homeowner claimed she had no idea who he really was, saying he'd been renting a room and paid in cash every week. When reporters asked how he made it from Louisiana to Georgia, authorities said they were still investigating. But one thing was clear: someone had helped him. When officers brought Groves into custody, many expected resistance, a fight, maybe even an attempt to run again. But instead, he was calm. Almost too calm. In court, wearing a simple gray jumpsuit and shackles around his wrists, he looked at the judge and said something no one expected. "I want to return where I'm from." Those 7 words shocked the courtroom. Instead of fighting extradition, Derrick Groves waived his right to a hearing. That meant he agreed to be sent straight back to Louisiana, back to the same state where he'd once slipped through their fingers. Reporters covering the hearing said his tone wasn't defiant or emotional. It was flat, empty, like a man who already knew his fate but wanted to face it head on. Authorities now have up to 15 days to transfer him back to New Orleans, where he'll face new charges of aggravated escape on top of his existing life sentence for murder.
Do we have Derrick Groves?
Yeah, he's right here.
If you could come up, sir. I'm right here. Have a seat, if you don't mind. Good morning.
This one or the green one?
So, sir, I'm Judge Wolf. This is your extradition. I want to go over your rights so you can decide whether you want to waive extradition or not. You're wanted out of the state of Louisiana for aggravated escape. I'm going to explain to you first what happens if you decide to have an extradition hearing, then what will happen if you decide not to have one. So you have the right to an extradition hearing if you choose. You have the right to hire an attorney to prepare for and conduct that hearing. If that's your choice, I will postpone the hearing for a reasonable time, 60 to 90 days, for you to obtain counsel. The law does not give you the right to a public defender or appointed attorney for purposes of extradition. If you choose to have the hearing, I will reset your case 60 to 90 days to allow your attorney to prepare for the hearing. At the hearing, there will be 3 issues. Are you the person named in the warrant? Did the governor of Louisiana sign the warrant? And what you're charged with in Louisiana, is that a crime in that state? I cannot consider your guilt, innocence, the merits of the case, or evidence connected with the underlying case. If after the hearing I determine that the requesting state, Louisiana, has met its burden of showing those 3 things, then they would have approximately 15 business days to pick you up. If they don't, then you'd be brought back before me and I would consider releasing you. If after the hearing I were to find that Louisiana failed to prove those 3 things, then you would be released. You also have the right to waive or not have that extradition hearing if you choose. If you waive your hearing, then Louisiana has approximately 15 business days from today to come get you. If they don't, then you'd be brought back before me and I would consider releasing you. However, you may be held up to 30 days before being released. Regardless whether you're released in Georgia, you are subject to arrest again at any time as long as this Louisiana warrant remains active. So even if you are released, you may wish to consider returning to Louisiana to have the matter resolved. Also, the media is here. I want to let you know they filed the appropriate paperwork. It's called Rule 11, and that was signed by one of our judges, our chief judge, and so they are here as well. You also have the right to remain silent. So let me just ask, though, do you have any questions about your extradition rights? No. And do you want to challenge extradition, or do you want to return to Louisiana?
I want to return where I'm from.
You want to go back to Louisiana?
Yeah.
Okay. So I do find you freely, voluntarily, and knowingly are waiving your extradition rights. I'm going to sign the paperwork, and that's all we're going to do here today. Thank you, sir. Okay. And in terms of anybody who has an interest in the Groves matter, that's all we're going to do for today.
What made Derrick Groves think he could outrun a life sentence? Was it desperation? Pride? Or something deeper? A refusal to accept the walls closing in on him? Think about it. A man sentenced to die in prison manages to slip past guards, cameras, and steel gates. And for 5 months, he actually lives free. He eats, sleeps, breathes, walks under open skies, until one morning, it all ends in tear gas and handcuffs. Was it worth it? The human mind is wired for survival, but Groves' story makes you wonder, is survival still freedom when you're constantly hiding? He built a cage of his own, one made not of bars, but of fear. Every siren, every knock on the door, every glance from a stranger must have reminded him the clock was ticking. And yet, that calmness in court, that quiet acceptance, makes it feel like maybe, in his mind, the escape had already served its purpose. Maybe he just wanted to prove he could beat the system, even for a moment. But in doing so, he exposed not just the cracks in a prison's walls, but the cracks in human nature. How far someone will go when they feel trapped. So, what do you think? Was Derrick Groves running from punishment or from himself? And more importantly, what does this say about the people who helped him, risking their freedom for his? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're just joining us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon, because here on Crime Bitz, we don't just tell stories, we question the minds behind them.